All right, let's dive straight into this explainer. I'm honestly so excited to go through this material with you today because we're going to unpack a concept that pretty much flips everything society tells us about confidence right on its head. Think about it. Since we were kids, we're told to play it cool, right? Keep your cards close to your chest, never let them see you sweat. But what if that exact armor we put on to protect ourselves is the very thing holding us back? What if true, unshakable confidence actually comes from losing your cool? Let's jump in. We're looking at the illusion of being cool and how to find actual lasting power in vulnerability.
Okay, check out these internal commands. I'm just going to read them off, really let them sink in. Look bad. Take a risk. Lose face. Be yourself. Open up. Be vulnerable. Now, if you're anything like me, reading a list that actually tells you to intentionally lose face or look bad feels completely crazy. It completely goes against all our basic survival instincts. But the source material points out something absolutely profound here. To get out of our own way, we have to aggressively leave behind that timid, painful self-consciousness that, let's be honest, we all probably picked up back in high school. We constantly overcorrect in the direction of playing it safe, so we need a massive pattern interrupt. And these commands? That's the interrupt. They're basically permission slips to finally stop pretending.
To really grasp why breaking out of this shell is so crucial, let's look at a personal story from the author of our source text. It all kicks off with someone who was just looking for a little bit of help with self-confidence, some personal growth. So the author schedules this pivotal phone call with a psychotherapist named Devers Brandon. Now picture this. When you call a professional for personal growth, you're usually expecting a warm welcome, right? Maybe a nice little compliment to get things started on a positive note. You just want to feel good about the journey you're embarking on.
Well, instead of a warm, fuzzy compliment, there was a devastating, immediate call-out. Seriously, within moments of the conversation starting, Brandon just zeroed right in on the author's voice. She says, and I quote, "It's so lifeless, a real monotone. I wonder why that is." Just imagine hearing that. Imagine someone pointing out that you are just speaking totally flat. No energy at all, no spark, zero emotion whatsoever. Talk about a massive, embarrassing wake-up call. Suddenly realizing that is exactly how the rest of the world is hearing you. The author was absolutely floored, just completely caught off guard. They had zero idea they sounded like an actual zombie, straight out of the classic horror movie Night of the Living Dead. It was this huge revelation of a complete systemic lack of emotional presence. But here's the really big question we need to ask. Why does that happen? Why do any of us totally shut down our vocal and emotional range without even realizing we're doing it? Because, it doesn't just happen in a vacuum. There's always an underlying reason when we strip the life out of our own voices.
And that zombie state definitely didn't happen by accident here. The raw truth was that during this specific period of time, the author wasn't just trying to sound all professional and calm. They were living scared. We're talking deep financial struggles, serious family health problems, just this creeping, terrifying sense of total powerlessness over mounting life issues. Life was completely overwhelming. So that monotone voice wasn't an aesthetic choice or some accident. It was actually a deeply ingrained psychological defense mechanism to handle the sheer chaos of life.
Which brings us to this incredibly fascinating psychological concept, macho indifference. The core idea here is that a lot of men, and honestly people in general, mistakenly put on this dull, emotionless exterior to hide their deepest fears. We use this macho indifference to mask the fact that we feel totally powerless. We're essentially covering our fear with what we think passes for coolness. The logic is completely flawed, but man is it common. We think, well, if I act like I don't care, then nothing can hurt me. If I don't show any enthusiasm, I can never be disappointed. But all it really does in the end, it just turns us into zombies. So Devers Brandon actually had a totally out-of-the-box way to fix this zombie state. She gives the author this genuinely bizarre homework assignment. I literally love this part. She says, go watch the classic movie Gone with the Wind and study how fearlessly the lead character reveals his female side. Wait, what? We are talking about Clark Gable, the ultimate classic rough-and-tumble man's man of early Hollywood? Why on earth would watching him help someone overcome their deep fear and drop a monotone voice? On the surface, it sounds like a complete contradiction.
But this brilliantly illustrates the exact difference between fake cool and true presence. Look at one side. You've got the cool guys, the ones we all probably grew up idolizing in high school. James Dean, Marlon Brando. And what was their trademark? They were totally indifferent, unenthusiastic, monotone.
I mean, Brando mumbled so much you could barely even understand half of his lines. That was the literal blueprint for being cool. But then, contrast that with a real man like Clark Gable in Gone with the Wind. He didn't play it safe. He had this massive emotional range. He was fiercely expressive and deeply vulnerable. He wasn't hiding behind some tough guy mumble. He was bringing his entire emotional spectrum straight to the screen, totally fearlessly.
Which brings us to a critical question, one that pretty much challenges everything we're taught about confidence and masculinity. I want you to really think about this for a second. Did revealing this massive emotional range, this quote-unquote female side of vulnerability and expressiveness, somehow make Clark Gable less manly? Did it make him look weak or pathetic to the audience?
No, absolutely not. Not even a little bit. It actually made him more real. It made him infinitely more compelling. Because it turns out that having emotional range and true presence doesn't diminish your power at all. It dramatically amplifies it. When you finally stop hiding behind this indifferent, monotonous persona, when you drop the whole act of the guy who just doesn't care, you actually draw people in. You become totally magnetic, simply because you are undeniably human. But here is the tragic irony of human nature, which our source beautifully identifies as the vulnerability paradox. It's this. We absolutely love vulnerability in other people, but we simply do not trust it in ourselves. Think about your own life for a minute. When a friend or even a leader opens up, admits they have a flaw, or shows real, raw emotion, we respect them more for it. We feel connected to them. But the absolute second we are in that exact same position, we freeze. We're terrified that if we drop our cool mask, we're going to be judged or mocked or rejected. We crave that human connection, yet we refuse to use the one tool that actually creates it.
So how do we actually fix this? How do we shed that indifferent persona without feeling like we're just jumping right off a cliff? Well, we do it in steps. Step 1. Just trust it a little at first. You don't have to spill your deepest, darkest secrets on day 1. Seriously, just try showing some genuine enthusiasm for a hobby you love. Step 2. Build that vulnerability over time. Let people see a little bit of your struggles. And then step 3, open up to an ever-widening spectrum of self-revelation. By actually being willing to lose face, we stop worrying about coming off like the tough guy, and we finally connect to the real, vibrant excitement of life. We leave the zombie behind for good.
So the next time you catch yourself shutting down, maybe lowering your voice to that monotone and trying to play it cool just because deep down you're living scared, remember the real secret to magnetic confidence. What if you just stopped worrying about always coming off as the indifferent man's man? To quote the great Clark Gable himself at the very end of that movie, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Drop the mic, drop the cool act, and start living fully." I really hope this explainer has completely shifted how you view vulnerability and strength. So the next time you feel that urge to play it safe and hide, ask yourself, are you brave enough to finally lose your cool? Thanks so much for exploring this with me.